Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today I'm going to be giving you my prediction of the post-merger stock price of CCIV or Lucid Motors. Obviously Lucid Motors haven't yet formally confirmed the merger, but it does seem like it's going to happen. In my last video I told you about how Peter Rawlinson, the CEO of Lucid Motors, had potentially leaked confirmation of the merger with CCIV on CNBC, as his facial expression showed a very happy, stress-free man. Now, in terms of a price prediction, you can't do an EBITDA based valuation on Lucid Motors because it's currently a private company, which means that they don't publish their financial statements on their website. However, Lucid are rumoured to have around $350 million in annual revenues, as they have been selling batteries and powertrains to other vehicle manufacturers. You also can't really do a discounted cash flow valuation because again, the figures aren't public. A DCF also relies heavily on how production is ramped up over the coming months and years, and also on the sales volumes and sales margins of those vehicles, which currently aren't on sale yet. Therefore, the best way to get an idea for a post-merger stock price of CCIV or Lucid Motors is to look at their competitors and compare. I'll be comparing Lucid to Tesla and to Nio, but also to Nikola Motors. Currently, Lucid are a lot more akin to Nikola Motors, as they haven't sold any vehicles yet. Later in the video you'll see that by comparing Lucid to Nikola Motors could mean that the CCIV share price could increase by 4 to 8 times its current value. The market cap could increase from around $8 billion to between $34 and $70 billion. If you're enjoying the video so far, then be sure to subscribe to the channel by clicking that red button down below to benefit from in-depth analysis on new, up-and-coming stocks, regular news updates on fast-moving stocks, and expose-style videos to help save you time and grow your stock portfolio. Also, be sure to check out the link to the Patreon, link down below in the description as well, to become part of the team and discuss stocks before they start blowing up, like CCIV, B&GO, and more. You also get access to my stock portfolio, which is updated daily, weekly live streams, one-to-one access, and more. But for now, let's get back to the video. Firstly, let's look at Tesla. Trying to compare Lucid to Tesla is almost impossible. Tesla currently have 5 vehicles released, 4 of which are currently for sale and many more currently in the works. Tesla is also very unusual as a result of the influence of its CEO. Elon has over 46 million followers, and anything he says impacts the stock's value massively. A large portion of the Tesla valuation is a result of having Elon as the CEO. He's got a great history and a great successful history, as well as the fact that he's a bit of a genius. Tesla currently has a market cap of over $800 billion. And that valuation includes Tesla's future earnings and what Tesla can do in the future, rather than just what Tesla is doing right now. Therefore, unfortunately, I don't think that CCIV will have a market cap of over $800 billion when the merger is announced. So who else is there? Well, next up we have Nio. But again, Nio have multiple vehicles that are currently for sale, and they've been ramping up production significantly throughout the year. And that's why their stock price has been increasing substantially over the last few months. You can see that if you look back to 2019, before Nio started ramping up their production, they had a share value of around $7, which would have given them a market cap of around $10 billion. Now on this basis, the CCIV stock doesn't have much room for growth, as they currently have a market cap already of around $8 billion. But back in 2019, Nio was a bit of a dark horse. We can see from the Wayback Machine that in May of 2019, Nio only had around 7,000 followers on Twitter, whereas Lucid Motors currently has around 83,000 followers on Twitter. Therefore, I think that CCIV or Lucid Motors could have a market cap of over $10 billion when the merger is announced. But the problem so far is that both Tesla and Nio have a lot of vehicles currently available for sale and have been making thousands and thousands of deliveries. We all know how difficult it is to go from a prototype vehicle to thousands of deliveries. Just look at what happened to Faraday Futures or to Dyson. So what about an EV company that currently doesn't have any vehicles available for sale? Well, you might remember Nikola Motors. After the Hindenburg research paper was announced and the ousting of Trevor Milton, the company hasn't been doing too well and the stock price has since shriveled up substantially. But what about when all was well and their trucks were just about to go into production? Well, the stock price for Nikola Motors rose from around $12 to around $80 per share, with a market cap of around $34 billion. From the Wayback Machine, we can see that they had 37,000 followers on Twitter at that time. But considering that Lucid Motors have over 80,000 followers on Twitter, I think that the market cap could be well over $34 billion when the merger goes through. Although, it's hard to say just how high the market cap and the stock price could go. Remember that the Lucid Motors stock isn't really going to be trading on any real fundamentals, because they don't have any vehicles for sale. Yes, they do have some revenues, but not on the same scale. And Lucid Motors is probably currently loss-making because of the amount of R&D that they've been doing. Don't forget that they're doing all the manufacturing in-house rather than using the technology from other companies like some EV manufacturers do, and therefore Lucid Motors are likely to have a lot of R&D. The stock also won't really be trading on any technical measures either. Right now the stock is currently setting new highs in uncharted territory, and therefore you can't really model future stock prices based on past historic performance. The stock will be trading almost entirely on social arbitrage, and it depends entirely on just how high the stock gets bid up. I would expect a market cap of around $34 billion, potentially with a market cap of up to $70 billion, because Lucid Motors have double the Twitter followers that Nikola Motors did at that time, and therefore potentially has double the amount of investors willing to buy the stock. But what would a market cap of around $34 billion mean to CCIV or Lucid Motors? Well, CCIV currently has a market cap of around $8 billion, and therefore it could potentially 4x up to $34 billion, which is a 400% return, and could go up to potentially 8 times its current value if the stock gets bid up even higher. I personally think that the stock price and the market cap will pop up quite high after the merger is announced, and will then subside and cool down until deliveries of the Lucid Air start. When those deliveries do start and the production starts to ramp up, then the market cap and the share price will increase towards Nio's direction, which is about a $90 billion market cap. But what happens to the CCIV stock after the merger is announced and completed with Lucid Motors? And it's actually really complex. But to cut a long story short, you get new shares in Lucid Motors that replace your shares in CCIV. But what about dilution? Do you get more shares in Lucid Motors, or less shares, or the same amount? To explain this, I'm going to use the CCXX or the Churchill Capital 3 presentation for when they did a reverse merger with Multiplan. Currently, CCIV is owned by Michael Klein, his team, larger institutional investors, and us, the regular retail traders. But as a result of the reverse merger, the current owners of Lucid Motors, being Peter Rawlinson, his team, and the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia, will also be given shares in the new entity. But with a reverse merger, there's also PIPE investors. PIPE stands for Private Investment in Public Entities. These PIPE investors are typically large institutions, mutual funds, or investment banks. Similarly to how investment banks buy some of the shares for a company that's just IPOing, the same thing happens in a reverse merger. With Multiplan, one CCXX share was exchanged for one Multiplan share. However, there was only around 125-130 million shares of CCXX and then 675 million shares of Multiplan, and therefore your shareholdings was diluted by about 80%, because the old investors only owned about 20% of the total Multiplan stock. But the market cap of CCXX pre-merger was around $1.25 billion, and then post-merger the market cap of Multiplan was around $6.7 billion, and therefore the share price didn't really change at all, because even though the shareholdings were diluted so much, the market cap increased significantly and basically net itself off. It will be really interesting to see just how much the shareholdings of CCIV get diluted if they do merge with Lucid Motors. There's around 200 million shares of CCIV, and the market cap of CCIV is much higher than CCXX, as it's around $8 billion and not $1.25 billion. It seems like the existing shareholders of Lucid Motors might end up with a smaller portion of the new public company. The Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia invested around $1.3 billion into Lucid Motors for more than 50% of their current existing shares, meaning that the current shares of Lucid Motors are probably worth somewhere around $2 billion. And therefore we, as regular retail investors, might not be diluted quite as much, because we will own around 80% of the new shares, the new public shares, rather than around 20% of the new public shares like it was in the multi-plan merger. Obviously that hasn't factored in the PIPE investors, and the existing shares might well be worth more than $2 billion, considering the company has made quite a lot of headway since receiving that investment from the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia. But as always guys, if you enjoyed this video, then be sure to check out some of my others. Alternatively, subscribe to the channel and ding the notification bell, because that way you'll be alerted when I upload a new video. Cheers!